Aileen, you want me to get going?
I think that's a good idea.
I just need recording rights for the Spanish recording. I just sent a request.
Yeah, I accept it.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Great. As for you all that are not aware, DOTI is great to provide interpretation services. So we are excited to have Francisco and his team here. Francisco, would you like to let folks know how they can take advantage of interpretation services?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Francisco Picado. I'm with Language Access LLC, and Dwayne Steele and I will be your interpreters this evening. For those of you who haven't used this service before, please click on the interpretation globe at the bottom right of your screen and select the language of your choice. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Francisco Picado. Yo trabajo para Language Access LLC. Dwayne Steele with you. Seremos sus intérpretes esta tarde. Para aquellos de ustedes que no han usado este servicio anteriormente, por favor, pulsen el globito en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla de la interpretación y seleccionen el idioma de su preferencia. Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Francisco. It's great to have you here, as always. Perfect. Well, we'd love to dive in and quickly go through attendance. Paul, are you here yet? Maybe I don't see Paul yet. Maybe we will give a couple more minutes for him to join, and then we can go through board attendance. We'll go through public comment perhaps, and then hopefully Paul will have jumped in by then, and we can go through board attendance if that's all right with everybody. Great. We'll do that first. So we'll go to public comment. Ninita, do we have anybody signed up for today?
Yes, we have a few. Let me see. We have Alejandro Castaneda. Let me move her to the panelist.
Great. Alejandra, welcome. As soon as you're moved over to panelist, you've got, looks like you're over here on the panelist side of things. If you don't mind unmuting, and you got 2 minutes, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. I probably won't use the 2 minutes since I didn't have time to prepare, but I have a picture brought for show and tell. This is the 29th Avenue bike lane. It's a newly revamped bike lane here in Northwest Denver, where I live with my 14-year-old. And as you can see, after the senior leadership at the Denver Department of Transportation decided to unprotect the bike lane right there by 29th and Tennyson. I have seen consistently drivers, whether from trucks making deliveries or just regular, private vehicle drivers, blocking the bike lane, the painted bike lane, showing us that by leaving the bike lane unprotected, we're not really valuing the lives of people that move on bikes. And so I'm very concerned. I'm concerned because we have plans and action plans, safe routes to school plans, and we continue to make decisions that put everyone that's moving outside of a car at risk, especially our kids. And I think I was one of the first people to give comment when this advisory board was first created a long time ago. My daughter was in 5th grade. And her and I, with her little buddies, zoomed in and talked about what we were facing at Academia Sandoval at 37th and Wyandotte. And now she's moving into high school, and I am just not seeing the progress that we were promised to make sure that our kids were kept safe while moving independently in our cities. And I'm concerned because I know that these are political choices. And so I don't know what else I can do as a parent to encourage our political officials to make the right choice for all of us. So thank you for all you do. I appreciate that. And I hope that you put pressure on the Department of Transportation, the mayor, our city councilors, to ensure that kids' safe mobility and independent mobility is prioritized. I see a lot of kids, especially now, it's not even, school's out, and I see a lot of kids biking, and a lot of them are using the sidewalk because obviously our infrastructure for moving on a bike is not safe for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandra.
Alan, I think you were
I was
on mute.
talking and was on mute the whole time. Thank you, Alejandra. Aileen mentioned for anyone in the advisory board, please be sure to update your name with your district, your full name with your district, who you might be representing, and pronouns if you like. Great. Nanita, who do we have next?
Jessica Coet.
Jessica, we'll promote you to panelist.
Let me try again. I think she's in now.
All right, looks like Jessica, you are moving over to panelist. If you don't mind unmuting or turning on your camera, if you please, and you've got 2 minutes once you're ready.
Hi, folks. I'm really glad to be able to join you today. I don't have a as gorgeous an image as the previous speaker, but I am the former owner of Denver Bicycle Cafe. I started Denver Bicycle Cafe in 2011 as an ode to my joy to bicycles and our ability to move around Denver has not been prioritized. It is a car-friendly city. We started Denver Bicycle Cafe with inspiration from these great cities like San Francisco and Portland and even New York City, who do prioritize safety for bicyclists. I'm really disappointed to see that the city of Denver continues to deprioritize bicycle safety by removing what they think are unsightly barriers. As the previous speaker showed, those barriers actually protect bicyclists from dangers like cars entering our lanes, but it also keeps cars from parking in our lanes. In that photograph, that was a really great example. Children and neighbors would have to go all the way into the street, and you can see in that photograph that that was a blind space for them. They would have to blindly go into oncoming traffic in order to avoid that truck. I'm really disappointed that the city continues to deprioritize bicycle safety, and especially along the 14th Street in front of the arts complex. I think it's wild that that is such a heavily used street, and the city of Denver is deprioritizing safety for bicyclists in favor of what they think is more beautiful. But what I like is to see people in our city, and bicyclists are people, and we deserve an access and safe access to use our roads. I really would appreciate that we stop taking down these barriers and understand that we need safe access and safe ways to ride in this city. Thank you so much for your consideration today, y'all.
Jessica, thank you so much for your testimony and public comment today. We appreciate it. Nanita.
We have John Mona.
Okay. We have John next. John, once you get moved over here to the panelist position, go ahead and turn on your video and please unmute. And we're looking forward to hearing you. You've got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for making the time for public comment. My name is John Ferrugia. There's several areas in Denver that were designated without sidewalks. They were designed for that. And the city plan designates them as not having sidewalks in the future. So these are in lieu of many of these are designated in historic districts. Often in lieu of the sidewalks, the city's planted trees in the right of way. Well, we live at the corner of 6th Avenue, Gaylord, and Circle Drive, and we have approximately 135 linear feet of sidewalk adjoining our property on 6th Avenue, with the city right of way, a strip between the sidewalk and the 6th Avenue we maintain. Now, there are no sidewalks on Gaylord and Circle Drive and never will be according to the city plan because Park Lane Square was originally designed not to have sidewalks. It's a haven for multi-generational bikers, for walking families and runners because of the wide streets and little traffic. However, there are trees in the right-of-way on which we've spent thousands of dollars over the years pruning, fertilizing, watering, and maintaining, and continue to do so. And they contribute to this inviting streetscape so everybody can enjoy them. Now, this is in addition, our costs are in addition to watering and fertilizing the right of way where there are no trees. And 2 years ago, we spent more than $3,000 to xeriscape the strip between the sidewalk and 6th Avenue. Why? Because after providing water and fertilizer and mowing the city right away for years, we found that the mag chloride applied to the street in the winter was killing the grass and the shrubs, and we feel the obligation not to let the right of way become a blowing dirt eyesore. My neighbor across the street and Gaylord has 5 huge, fully mature elm trees in the city right away. Last year, she spent in excess of $12,000 pruning and maintaining them, and Save a Tree was here just today on her property removing dead limbs. I support personally, and our family does, the minimum sidewalk fee of $150 annual as fair and necessary. However, we are now being assessed with an additional impact fee of $371 annually for sidewalks that are never going to be poured on Gaylord and Circle Drive. And this is in addition to the thousands of dollars we spent to maintain the city right away and future costs. I have many other neighbors bordering 6th Avenue and University that share this issue, and there are certainly other neighborhoods in the city designed without sidewalks. I'm not sure the city considered this unique situation when formulating the sidewalk program because there are a few situations like this in Denver. I don't believe this additional impact fee is fair to me or other property owners who are already maintaining the right of way as required, but now are being essentially doubly taxed. I hope there might be a way for the director of the sidewalk program, Geneva, to address this issue and provide relief before my invoice is due to be paid in 2 weeks. You have my contact information, so I hope somebody can follow up with me. And again, I want to make it clear. I think the sidewalk, the basic sidewalk fee is absolutely essential, and it's important that we do it. But I just don't believe that this is a fair, fair situation for someone who lives in a designated area where there will never be sidewalks. Thank you very much for taking the time to consider this.
John, thank you so much for your testimony and public comment tonight. We appreciate hearing from you, and hopefully you'll stick around. Geneva will be presenting here after public comment, so there may be another opportunity to learn more. Thank you. Nandita, who do we have next?
Next, we have David.
Great. David Kurst or David Mincer? I see we have 2 right now.
Mentor.
David Mincer, okay. Great, David, as soon as you're over here, please go ahead and turn on your camera and unmute and take it away. You got 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to follow up on my comment from last month regarding the East Avenue safety study. In the 2 months since the study was released, there have been 70 crashes on 13th and 14th Avenues between Broadway and Yosemite, according to the city's Vision Zero dashboard. It's an average of over 1 every day. There have been 2 serious injuries during this time, one at 13th and Emerson and one at 14th and Clarkson. Those are both on the block of Morey Middle School, where my 2 daughters will be attending next fall. Looking at DOTI's website for the East Avenue study, they say the quote near-term countermeasures to reduce speeding will be signal timing, bulb outs, and chicanes. But if you look at this study, they specifically state that those measures will be inadequate to reduce speeding, and they call for speed tables to be installed every 4 blocks. The cost of that intervention would be about the same as a single traffic light install. And according to the study, if we delay this another 5 years, 3 to 4 people will die and 120 people will suffer potentially life-altering serious injuries. I was hoping Nick could answer what is the timeline for installing these speed tables and what obstacles stand in the way of getting them done faster. Thank you. Thank you all for your work here.
Great. Thank you, David. Really appreciate your comments. Nick, I saw you come up. Would you like to hold that for the executive update, or would you like to chime in now? Oh, we can't hear you. That's correct. Yeah, we can see your lips moving. Yes.
Now, okay, good. Yeah.
Yep.
Just popping on quick to say I don't have that, but we can certainly follow up with David on that, get that information to him. I don't have that information though today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick. And thank you again for your public comment, David. Nanita, who do you have next?
I think we have Audrey, but I'm not seeing her here.
Okay. If there's anyone here, maybe Audrey signed under a different name, or if you signed up for public comment, we haven't called you yet, please feel welcome to raise your hand with the Zoom functionality. Make sure you're heard. And I do see there is a 1407 phone number on there, but I'm not sure how to have a phone number raise their hand to identify in case it is Audrey. Do we have anyone else while we're waiting for Audrey?
No. That was it for us.
Great. We will move on now to our attendance. Paul, we're going to come back to you. We punted this. We can have public comment go first. Paul, could you take board attendance or grab anybody that you haven't seen here is in the list?
Yes, I just screenshotted it, which I realize is easy to do, and it looks like we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Jill is a member, yes. 10. And the Jamie who's muted, is that our Jamie?
That's me.
So we have 11, which I believe is enough for quorum, correct?
Yep. So we do have quorum. So that's perfect.
But and my spiel, as always, sorry I'm late, if you could put your district and if you're a DOTI employee or a nonprofit employee, your job title in the name thing. It helps everyone immensely, but me especially.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate that. We just got the mini minutes for last month. Would you all be okay if we defer our approval of last month's meeting minutes till folks have a little bit more of a chance to look at them? We can go through them and vote them on July. Great. Saw some thumbs up there. Have folks had a chance to look at the April meeting minutes? Would we like to have a motion to approve those?
I'll motion to approve.
Great.
Second.
Second. Great. All those in favor. Oh, I should ask, is there any June, what's the word that I'm looking for? Any dissent, any objection to approving the meeting minutes as
any objection? Then if you see none, seeing none, the minutes are unanimously approved.
Great. Is there any objection to approving the meeting minutes from April of 2025? Seeing none, then the meeting minutes are approved. June, thank you. Your process improvement just saved us a bunch of time there instead of having to fully vote on it. So appreciate that. Great. We will move on now to the executive update. Nick, please feel free to roll.
Thank you, sir. Just got a few today. I know we've got a pretty packed agenda. Touch on a few items. Sidewalk, I'm going to defer that to Geneva's presentation, but still have progress going on with that. And we'll get into a little bit more about some specific activities and input we would look for from the advisory board, but I'll defer that to the presentation. Another administrative front, we are, I think the mayor's office is, from their 6 appointees is down 1. I think we have a vacancy on there. And so I've been doing interviews last week on that and should hopefully, I would like to get someone in place. Well, I'm not going to defer because their council process is involved with that very soon on there. Moving into more kind of substantive items on here, you probably have seen, I know this group is very instrumental in advising on the budget. You've probably seen the news surrounding the budget and just the extremely challenging budget environment that we were entering in. I think in the Denver Post article, I think it was yesterday or Monday, or no, today is Tuesday. So yesterday on there got into some more specifics from the mayor looking for in 26 to fund or to close a $200 million projected budget hole on there. And that is for a lot of reasons. And there's a lot of challenges with this because that is primarily in the general fund budget as opposed to the capital improvements fund or the CIP budget. On there, which is more primarily based on property tax, which is not, if you own property in Denver, no, it's not gone down. The general fund is more heavily based on sales tax and hotel fees and things like that. We know that has softened on that. And some of that, there's for a million different reasons, and I'm definitely not an economist, so I'm not going to say, but just a lot of uncertainty, and that's not good for business. And that there are certainly lights on the horizon. I think we had a very exciting, I was out of town, but a very exciting reopening of 16th Street Mall and really looking to get that back to being such a vibrant economic generator for the city and just a great place for folks to come down and have fun on there. But when we talk about general fund, the main draw isn't respectful, but the main component of the general fund is city staff salaries on there. And so you are going to see, beginning this year, you're going to start to see furloughs anywhere from 2 to 7 days for folks, depending on salary level. And you will also see layoffs in the coming months on there. And it's a very difficult time right now. You know, the city still has a job to do, and no matter what, Denver is here, and Denver, we have a responsibility to that. But you certainly will hear more about that in the coming months on there, and that'll have an impact on what the city does and what the city provides on that. But certainly are trying to keep priorities and what we need to do to make a safe and accessible multimodal network and a transportation network out there at the front of our minds on there, and we'll certainly seek selectively counsel from this group, just perspective from this group as we go through that, just as we do with every budget process on there. A little bit brighter news. We've talked about it previously about kind of some of the challenges coming from the federal government as it relates to grants and how grants are being held or conditions are being put on grants that the city's not able to comply with, specifically around immigration law and immigration policy on that. It's a little bit of bright where we had a temporary injunction filed against in the city's favor as it related to a few grants where the Department of Transportation and a number of other grants, but specifically to us, you know, there've been conditions put on the grant that we were not able to, as it relates to immigration policy, comply with, which really wasn't the deal we had when that was originally done. And so we'll see. Of course, that is not definitive. That is a temporary injunction, and there will be more to come on that, but at least some temporary good news. And then last item here, May was Public Works Week. And even though we are not officially Public Works as a department name, we still have a division of Public Works, which encompasses the critical services of solid waste and wastewater services. And we had a lovely proclamation from Council Members Torres and Councilman Flynn on there, and just some very nice recognition for the folks that do kind of those core services. We always say with those two things, solid waste and wastewater, we want to make sure that's all going out and never where it is, or certainly not coming back on there. And so that was a nice way for kind of in a challenging time to give recognition to our employees on there. I will stop there. I know we've got a full agenda, but happy to, with pleasure of the chair, if there's any questions I can potentially answer, or at least try to answer.
Looks like we've got June and then Joe. June, go ahead.
Nick, which grants are impacted by those DOT decisions? It's not
I believe it was the Safe Streets for All, SS4A, which I think is up on, I will double check. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself on there, but I believe that was the one that was included in the giant. I think that was up in the GES, or maybe it was the Washington corridor.
Yeah, those were the Reconnecting Communities grants.
That could also, yeah. I know it was SS4A and Reconnecting Communities, but that's my understanding. Like I said, I'll correct myself in the chat if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, June. Joe.
Nick, with the the loss of staff, and we deal a lot with staff, do you see slowdowns, or is that being figured out how to manage it, or we're going to try to keep things moving as we are now? What's your feeling about what's going to happen with getting building permits and all that kind of stuff?
I couldn't say specifically like case by case, but I think it is just, you know, we are absolutely trying to maintain customer service. And when I say customer service, we talk about the services provided to our customers, the 750,000 residents of Denver, whatever it is right now, on there, and making sure just all those critical things, the stop sign falls down, we're getting it back up, things like that on there. That being said, I don't know how there could not be an impact to service as we cut into the staff. Now, a lot of it will depend, and a lot is still up in the air on there. But you know, I firmly believe that just about everyone, if not everyone, that is here is providing customer service. It's how direct is it, and that when you start to reduce those folks, and that's the challenge. You know, we still have a lot of CIP funding, we still have a lot of CIP commitments, but wanting to make sure that yes, we have the folks to be able to deliver those commitments. on there. And so that's a lot of words to say, Joe. I don't know. But that being said, I don't know how, depending on, especially how deep the cut ends up being. And I also don't know that there won't be some impact felt by the residents on there, but we're doing everything we can to minimize that to the greatest extent we can.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Andy.
Hey, Nick. I guess any response to Jessica's comment about the removal of the bollards on the bike lanes in Denver? And I think, especially, I don't have the number in front of me, but the amount of money the city spent to make bike lanes less safe when we're also in a budget crisis.
I'll give the very start of a response on there, but this is one, I think we were aware that there was going to be folks, and I think this is a very relevant topic on here, and I think kind of represents a evolution in how the city and the department is approaching bike lanes on there. There a lot of these, I think there is kind of a concept that this was a purely aesthetical decision. I would say that's definitely not the case. On there. There is maintenance aspects to this, and there is data around safety on there, and there's certainly differing opinions on that, and I understand that, respect that. But certainly what I would propose is this is a big topic, and not one I can adequately respond to here, is in a subsequent meeting, and of course defer to the committee leadership on there, addressing this directly, the actual infrastructure being used for that, but that between the ZCLAs, between the diverters, between the bollards, things like that on there. So kind of I wouldn't even say that's a half answer, Andy. That's probably a quarter answer or a 10% answer on there, but certainly recognize we had a lot of engagement with folks over this over the past couple of weeks, and I was out part of that as well. But I think we can provide either direct response or have someone from the bicycle team come and talk about why that decision was made and kind of what we see as the impact, both positive and negative.
Thanks, Andy. June?
On that topic, so the cost to remove those flex posts to mill the street in front of SDK Steakhouse, everything, from my understanding, that was $200,000 from the neighborhood transportation and traffic calming line item, which my understanding was to improve neighborhood bikeways. At least that's what I was told during the last budget cycle. And also I heard, and I'm not going to repeat it right now, I heard a maintenance, like the actual cost that the maintenance for that bike lane has been over the past year, which was far, far, far lower than $200,000. So could you speak quickly, what is the actual maintenance cost of maintaining that bike lane with the flex posts as it had? And is that lower, like significantly lower than that $200,000 that was spent to downgrade it and remove those?
Sure. And I definitely don't have that level of granular. I think, Jane, at this point, you have a little bit more data on the budgetary side of things than I do on there. But I would just say, it is not just a one-year thing. And I think that's always been the challenge with the bollards, is that is a constant, perpetual, I think about the ones outside of the web building and along 14th on there, and how it is a constant replacement. And again, this is one aspect of the decision. I don't want to make it seem like this is the reason, end of story on there. But I think that kind of information will be appropriate in this kind of what we're talking about in the future. I wish I had that level of detail on it.
I guess I'll quote the number that I heard with the caveat that it's unconfirmed. I heard it was $2,900 per year for that specific facility. And again, that's not confirmed, but if so, we're talking like we could go 15, 20 years of the same cost on that facility. We wouldn't even approach the cost to remove those flex posts and to mill that spot. So I fail to see, I mean, aesthetics are one thing, right? But when we're talking numbers, when we're in a budget crisis, we're in a crunch year where we're seeing the lowest level of bicycle funding that we've seen in many years in our budget, to then turn around and use that exact same fund to downgrade a facility that wasn't actually costing us that much money, in my mind, is just an absolutely inappropriate use of dollars. And because Jessica mentioned 14th, and the concept that we might remove a bike lane in order to accommodate for event traffic, when the bike lane is used all day, but events are only, of course, some of the time, with no recognition being given to the traffic conditions on 14th when events aren't occurring there. And the fact that that would force people biking out into traffic in a way that is just completely discordant with our city's established plans and the very good record of that lane and being very well used and having a great safety record. So I got a voice, and frankly, Nick, I want more information on this, and I want like a much more solid update with actual budget numbers, with actual justifications, explanation if there's any other bike lanes that this treatment is coming towards, and especially potentially an update on 14th, and whether or not the city is working on any other traffic mitigation plans when it comes to event planning. Because in my mind, that should be our first objective, is figure out, besides spending money to rip out an existing facility, are we doing everything we can to mitigate traffic and conflicts between people going to an event and people using the lane in a way that doesn't necessitate downgrading safety? Because in my mind, I'm seeing this pattern of just aesthetic and parking concerns being placed over safety and mobility in a way that I'm seeing accelerating, which is really concerning given that it's downgrading commitments, it's eating up budget that was supposed to go to upgrades. It's just, I'm not out here to shoot the messenger or anything, and I really appreciate the work you do for us. I need to, and I don't need an answer for all this right now, right? But it's just, I need to say that out loud, that this just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense, especially from a budgetary perspective, especially from a planning perspective. I don't get it. Especially the budget stuff, especially pulling $200,000 out of the only fund we had this year to build new bike infrastructure. That you and I well know, $200,000 could be, what's the cost per mile on a neighborhood bikeway? It's pretty low. That could go towards finishing one of the neighborhood bikeways or upgrading them, or, building another mile of painted bike lanes, right? Or building, a good half mile of a good protected bike lane, right? Like, that money now can't go to those other projects because it was spent on aesthetic concerns and valet parking for a steakhouse. Like, that's just, sorry, I'm getting heated. I'm done. And we're late in our
Message
agenda.
received, June. Yeah, we certainly will provide the group with more information. Message received, though.
Okay. And let me know if you need more detail on budget stuff. Of course, I've got my numbers, and I'm trying to get the best handle on this that I can.
June, thank you for your thoughts. Appreciate those. Aileen?
Yeah, Nick, sorry to pile on. I'm talking about the same thing, the same concerns. I'm gonna say something that adds, I think, to what June is talking about. And Nick, I want to highlight like how you talked about how this is a complicated topic and there's a lot of nuance, and June kind of referenced that as well. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate that you're noting how complicated of a topic this is. So now I want to back up and talk about how much time we as a city spend studying and planning the implementation of this kind of infrastructure. And so my concern is that that infrastructure was just removed with very little transparency, very little public discussion of the pros and the cons. And like, I may not agree with the aesthetic component of this conversation, but I get that it's a real part of it. And frankly, if that's what the concern is, then yes, let's have a conversation about how to make safe bike facilities in downtown more aesthetically pleasing, instead of just removing them with no substantive public conversation about it. For as much conversation occurred to get those bike lanes installed, I am, without trying to be too dramatic, but since I personally worked on this project over 10 years ago, I'm a little offended that how much effort was put into studying to justify these, and then we just popped them out. So I'll end there because I know I don't mean to belabor the point, but I felt like I had to get that out as well and say it out loud. So
And
thank you.
I will give you an aesthetic alternative to flex post that has vertical separation.
Eat it.
Tall curbs that Boulder has installed on Baseline Road. They did that over a year ago at this point, and they got painting, public art, right, placemaking, but it also provides direct protection for people biking. And also they're low enough that people can see into storefronts. And again, they're painted, which livens up our streetscape. In my mind, removing flex post, having the Zikla zippers versus a tall curb bike lane, right? There's much more ability for placemaking and safety and that same amount of vertical separation that we really want in those protected bike lanes to make them feel comfortable for people. So I'll just say that there's an alternative that we could invest in that would make these facilities better for everyone, right? And fixes this aesthetic concern that I hear so often.
Got it. Thank you.
Aileen, June, thank you so much. Nick, I'll just add, I appreciate everything June and Aileen said. I understand decisions like this are often made at the highest levels of city government. So we'll look forward to the conversations with the department in hopes that we can better engage the community in the future when changes like these are made. And have more of a conversation. So I'm hearing you say that the department's willing to have a conversation and bring in some folks from the bike planning team, and we'll welcome that in July or August, wherever we're able to get them in there.
Yep.
In here.
Between you and Aileen, I feel like the leadership of that I'm feeling like you're going to want that. So yes, no, absolutely. We're happy to come and talk about that. Absolutely. 100%.
We'll try to be as nice as possible, Nick.
Hey, you guys are always professional. I never worry about you.
Great.
No.
Anything else for Nick? I feel like we should cut him loose here since we've gone over on our typical 5 to 10 minute allocation, but anything else pressing? Great. Thank you so much, Nick. We really appreciate it. And thank you again for your candor and discussion on these issues and everything that's going on with DOTI right now. So great transition. I think we have Geneva here. I saw her a little while ago. Hopefully she can come back on camera. Yep, here's Geneva. Geneva, if you all don't know, is not only our new sidewalk program manager, she's a longtime DOTI employee. I've seen some amazing improvements that she's done over here in our neighborhood on the north side of Denver. So the city has already benefited from some of her great work, and we're excited to see what's in store for the sidewalk program for Denver. As you all know, voters voted on this a few years back. We've had a lot of different iterations and committees and planning to get us to where we are today, but we're excited to finally have revenue coming in the door to help plan and build out some of this. So Geneva, please take it away.
Thank you, Alan. What a nice introduction. Can I just bring you with me to all my meetings? You can hype me up. It's good to be here, and I see some familiar faces. So hello, everyone. I'm here today with my colleague, Katie Bridges. Some of you may know Katie as well. And so, yes, I am the city's brand new program director for this brand new program that we have. And so today I'm going to walk you through the work that we're doing this year, some of the work that we have planned for construction, and then really critically, some of the rule and reg updates that we have as well regarding billing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and you all no need to wait till I finish presenting. If you have questions, we can answer them, get them answered as I go. So let's see, sometimes I have issues with PowerPoint on Zoom. So let's see if it'll do what I need it to do. Weird. 1 second. Okay, there we go. I think you can see my screen. Okay, great. So, all right. So as many of you are very aware, the Denver Deserves Sidewalks campaign was initiated and on the ballot in 2022. And this was a huge change that shifts how we build, repair, and maintain sidewalks in the city. And it shifts that responsibility from individual property owners to the city. This was passed in 22, and then a series of amendments were passed by council in September of 2024. And so those new sidewalk ordinance amendments are what we carry forward. And ultimately, what we are charged with is to build a complete sidewalk network with urgency. And that is a huge undertaking. It means building over 350 miles of new sidewalks. It means bringing 1,200 miles up to standard. That includes like our very narrow Hollywood sidewalks that we have in a lot of Western Denver, West Denver, and parts of Southwest and Southeast. It also means bringing an even unknown number of miles of sidewalks that need repair up to standard. And to put those numbers into context, historically, the city has delivered less than 9 miles of sidewalks per year. A lot of reasons for that, one being that sidewalks are complex. And usually if we don't have a sidewalk, it's because there are really significant challenges that have to be overcome, either right-of-way acquisition or trees or the cost of it all. And so there are a lot of reasons why this number is what it is. And ultimately, because of the ordinance and because of this new sidewalk enterprise program, we now have a dedicated funding stream to address these challenges. And so I am someone who likes to think like, okay, what is really the most important thing that we're doing? And the most important thing that we're doing is building sidewalks. And then that calls into question some important things. Where are we building them? How are we building
Geneva,
them?
real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think we're still seeing the main page. It says Sidewalk Enterprise Program Update.
No. Really? You're not seeing any of my screen changing.
Unfortunately, not right now.
Okay, well, thank you, Katie, for letting me know. So I'm not just over here. Let me try this again. See, I'm telling you, Zoom. Let's try this. If I change the slide here, are you seeing?
Yep, that works great.
Yeah. Great. Okay, thanks, Katie. So I'm not going to reiterate this, but this is just a visual of what I just told you. And then this is saying, hey, we've got to build sidewalks, and we have all these huge fundamental questions about how to do that because of the outstanding need and in many ways the dollars that we're limited to on an annual basis. And so these questions about where we build sidewalks, how we do that, and when we're doing that will be addressed in the sidewalk implementation plan. And the other questions about how do you build a whole program that can use money in a smart way and make sure that we are tracking how things are going, that we have consistency, that we're communicating with the public and with our customers, all of that feeds into program management. And both of those things will help us identify areas in the city that we move into design and then into construction. Hopefully, we don't have to take every single sidewalk to 100% design. That's a really costly thing for us to do. It takes a lot of time. And if it is a standard, ideally, we can maybe do some field fitting and leverage some other ways of building sidewalks faster. So related, of course, then to construction is what we're doing this year. For those who are less familiar with our ways of delivering construction projects, we have several different avenues that we can go. One of which is kind of your traditional design, bid, build. And then we have other ways of going. You have design, build, you have construction management, general contractor, and you have integrated construction. So we will be using this integrated construction alternative delivery, which is going to help us accelerate sidewalk and really meet the will of the voters. This construction will start in Q4 of this year, once we get our contracts through council and get everything set up and running.
Will you quickly tell us what, for those of us that don't live in this world, what integrated construction means?
Yeah, great. Integrated construction is a way that it's effectively giving prime contractors, we identify how the work needs to get done, and then they are then procuring that work themselves. So for instance, we'll say, hey, we want to take these 4 different corridors to construction, and then they will put together what that work needs to look like, and then solicit bids from subcontractors, review those bids with us, the city, and then we move forward with the low bid. They also can self-perform that work. So in essence, what it is going to give us is the ability to deliver more work with less of an impact on city staff. And it's a really good strategy and a good construction mechanism for when you have either very similar scope or very similar location. And so for this sidewalk, the scope is pretty similar across the city. The locations are going to differ. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Joe, go ahead.
Sorry. I am in the business. So are you saying integrated construction integrates design and construction? So you'll say we want to go from Evans Avenue to whatever, to another street, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to figure out how to do it. And then you price it. Are you asking for, for every 20 feet of sidewalk, you charge this much? I can, maybe that is offline, but it still doesn't
Yeah.
make quite enough sense to me. There's several ways to contract as you know. So it
Yes.
just kind of, hopefully you figured that out. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm happy to chat with you offline about this. What you're talking about, what I hear is more of a design build where you have both the designer and this is different. The integrated construction contracts will have pre-construction services, so things like constructability reviews and design, additional cost estimating, but we are still taking these two full 100% design through other methods, and then they get pulled into construction. So it's not the same as design build.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, great. So the projects that we're going to be taking forward right now are those that are shovel ready for us. And I listed those here. Those are a few of them: East 44th, Sheridan, which I'm really excited about, Tower Road, West Evans. We have other projects as well that are in the pipeline. So these are what we will start with. And then in addition, we have other construction work going on this year. Our spot repair work is that which we've received through 311s. Alan, thank you so much for contributing many, many, many. So these are ones that are, our residents and others who come to Denver get to say and go through 311. You need to submit your issue with a photo. And then we have a project inspector go out and review those for to make sure that those fit within our criteria for this year. So that's really, we're focusing on the most egregious examples where we have, say, sidewalks that are at different elevations, where we have really big safety issues that need to be addressed. And then as we can, we're also trying to focus that work in geographic areas. So it costs money to mobilize any kind of construction. So if we can go out and make sure that we have a day or a week's worth of work in an area, then that makes the most sense for us to do. So we're still working on what exactly those work plans will be. We are still taking in 311s, and I anticipate that that contract just went through. So I think construction will start as soon as next month. And so the things that we are not going to address through 2025 spot repair are flagstone sidewalks, because that is part of a bigger conversation and other challenges that we have. So we don't want to go in and say, and make a spot repair to a flagstone until we have some of those bigger programmatic questions identified. And more information about the spot repair is on our city website. You can also see the spot repairs that make it to our highest priority are there. You want to see if any of yours made it. And that work, like I said, will get underway next month. And then the other big thing that's happening is the kickoff to our sidewalk implementation plan. So this, per the ordinance, is required, and it will be our guiding document to make sure that the program is moving in ways that meet the voters' wishes, and that we are really delivering this program to the degree that we need to. So this is going to direct both the program's work plan and budget over the next 5 years. It needs to be updated every 5 years, which is why this is really focused on the next 5. Our engagement strategy is going to be focused on understanding community values, the prioritization and trade-off discussions, understanding project phasing, and ultimately, how do we make those prioritizations across the city? Do we make sure that we're prioritizing new sidewalk construction? What about new sidewalk construction in schools or on the high injury network? There are all these different really tough questions that we're going to need to work through. And what that plan is going to help us have are work plans where we move forward and move high priority areas into design and construction. And very exciting is that you all are the named entity in the sidewalk ordinance as the group that we get to work with as we're developing this plan. So over the course of the plan development, I will be coming back to you. I'll be walking you through how the plan is going, coming to you with some of those key questions for discussion. And then once we're at the final, not final, but draft implementation plan, I will be submitting that to you all for your review and comment for us to take a look at and include and address as we can. So this is, I think, a really exciting thing. I know over the years of having the DOTI advisory board, there have been questions about and really interested in helping you all get more engaged in some of our DOTI projects. And so I think this is going to be a good thing for us to be working toward together over the next 15 to 18 months. And so you'll be seeing me a lot more as we get into it. Yes, Jamie, go ahead.
You know, considering you're covering such a large area, obviously everybody's going to want their sidewalk done first. I'm just curious, are you guys going to have like a dashboard to kind of update people on what's happening, where, you know, when their community will be addressed, et cetera, so people have knowledge?
Yes, absolutely. That is one of the things that's has not yet been developed, but we're working on that and making sure that we have a map, if nothing else, that shows here's the projects and here are the sidewalk improvements that you can anticipate to see this year. We know that that's absolutely needed, and we'll be working on it. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you're going to come up with some that we can review, kind of standard rules, like John, for if there's a tree in the way, if there's no sidewalk there, if there's a sprinkler in the way, do you go into the street? Do you go into the property? Are you kind of trying to develop all those now, or what I mean, obviously every case is different, but some just standard rules that we can all agree to. Is that part of what your planning process is?
The planning process is going to help identify where we need to clarify all of those processes and standards and policies, procedures, rules and regs, all of that for the program. In the actual sidewalk implementation plan, we will not be going into that level of granular detail for a lot of reasons, one of which being that that requires such technical expertise and a lot of intercity conversations and dynamics. But that is to say that in the sidewalk implementation plan, we will be having conversations with the public and with this group about some of those grander trade-offs. I think a really good example of one that I think we need to continue talking about is our standards say on a local street, we should always have a 5-foot sidewalk and a tree lawn. That is the ideal. And that makes for really beautiful sidewalks and really beautiful streets. The trade-off to that is then we very often have to acquire right-of-way, which bumps up the cost of that sidewalk. And it has greater impacts to our neighbors. So in those instances, what's our, like, how do we as a program move forward? Would we rather have more sidewalks that are just attached on local streets when it's already a fairly low volume street? And maybe we can do 3 times as many sidewalks as fast, or do we go slower and do fewer sidewalks? And I don't know yet how we're going to come to that balance, but that's one of those trade-offs that we're going to need to get through. June, then Gary.
I just wanted to ask for an explicit follow-up on John's public comments regarding sort of the Sixth and Gaylord area, and I'm not familiar with all the area plans off the top of my head, but are you all aware of areas that don't have planned sidewalks in previous planning documents? And sort of how does that sort of interact with this master planning process and your processes?
Yeah, good question. So yes, I am aware of those areas that per a former rule and reg were exempted from sidewalks. The city ordinance takes precedent and supersedes those exemptions. That said, there will be a lot of conversations and work as we update those existing rules and regs to reconcile those differences that we see. On a billing side, the billing and from an ordinance standpoint, there are no exemptions to the bill. So even if you have frontage, for instance, in the example that was presented to us earlier today, everyone is charged that access fee. And then if you have additional frontage exceeding 230 feet, then you are still billed for that full amount. So that's where we have some things that need to be updated in our rules and regs so that we have clarity with the public and internally about those sorts of questions.
Very quick follow-up. Do you know where that $375 impact fee is coming from? I understand the sort of general fee for the sidewalk program, but what about the $375 impact fee that was mentioned?
Yeah, so the impact fee, and just for everyone's awareness, so when and I think if you own property in Denver, you've received your sidewalk bill. So everyone is charged $150 access fee for access to the network. And that includes all the frontage that you will have up to 230 feet. If you have over 230 feet, then you're charged $3.50 or $3.55, I can't remember which one, per foot additional. So that additional impact fee is just for that additional frontage exceeding 230 feet. Okay, Gary. Gary, you are muted.
Oh, I know. It took 2 clicks. Okay. Sorry. And actually, I'll start first with clarifying again what this integrated construction actually means.
Yeah.
I see that there's a number of different applications. There's integrated risk management. There's integrated project management. But you just simply use the phrase integrated construction. What is exactly your the structure of that delivery method?
Yeah, and we call it integrated construction as sort of the umbrella term, and that's our shorthand for that, just as we say design build or CMGC. So the structure itself will be the DOTI program director, myself, and a construction project manager are the DOTI representatives that are working with the integrated construction team. And so we will be the ones to identify work that needs to be completed. We either issue a task order or we issue and say we are ready to move forward with a work order. Identify that. The integrated construction project manager develops the scope of work and like all the specifics as to how we get to that outcome of delivering XYZ sidewalks. And then they are the one to issue and to have a call for proposals through BidNet, the Daily Journal, Work for Denver. They receive those bids and review them with myself and with the construction PM. We award the contract, and then the day-to-day oversight of that work is happening really by the integrated construction PM with some oversight from us at DOTI. So the work is happening either by them or through a subcontractor.
Yeah, it sounds like a hybrid of construction management partners. Yeah, okay. How much do you know? Do you know how much that's going to cost? And that's obviously coming out of the sidewalk program budget.
Yes. So the contracts that we are moving for are at this moment are capacity contracts. So they allow for the work up to a certain dollar value, and those 2 contracts sum to 75 million. The reason for that 75 million is approximately over this year and then over the next 2 years, the program anticipates to receive approximately 90 million. It's slightly more than that, but it's about 90 million. We have 15 million that's covered in program management services, including design, sidewalk implementation plan, and other services. And then the remaining capacity from a capital budget perspective is covered by that 75 million.
I see. And then where is the, I assume you're going to be selling bonds because this is an enterprise?
We have the opportunity as an enterprise fund to issue debt, as in selling bonds. we have not yet determined whether or not that will be the way that we move forward to deliver the program.
Okay, so you don't have a financing cost yet because you're not anticipating borrowing money.
We are moving in conjunction with the sidewalk implementation plan. We are moving through a series of financial analyses, a value for money analysis, and other things that explore all of those different scenarios in order to help us accelerate delivery through higher capital.
Right. Okay. You'll have that in a some sort of budget spending plan as part of the master plan that goes out over the first 6 years.
Yeah, the sidewalk implementation plan will talk through how exactly that will pair how much money we have and how much money we anticipate having to the level of work that we anticipate to deliver.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Cool. I am going to scoot over these next 2 slides pretty quickly because we have a lot for Katie to talk through. This is just showing our sidewalk program setup schedule. So in the teal, light blue, those are kind of the behind the scene things that we're doing. The purple are programmatic communications. So lots that needs to be done to help educate and share information about the program. The orangey red sidewalk implementation plan. Yellow is showing our design activities and what will happen over the next year, especially regarding the establishment of programmatic agreements and other design standards. And then green are the construction. And I am going to move over to my colleague Katie, who's going to give us an update on the rules and regs. And Katie, I'll move the slides as needed.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Geneva. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Bridges, and I'm excited to be here and talk about rules and regs as we move the first round forward. This is only the first round of rules and regs, and just want folks to know we recognize that. And the reason for that is that we want to focus on the details of billing specifically. Geneva mentioned most folks have received their first bill. And so those are the issues we're hearing from customers right now that we want to make sure we resolve. There will be more rules and regs to come. And so as you have questions about those, please let us know. We have a list of future needs that we are working through. But these first rules and regs are going to focus on clarifications to frontage, rules around group accounts. So we've heard from HOAs, our annual rate increases and the specifics of that, and then contestations and appeals. I want to call out one big thing that you may realize is missing here is the affordability rebate. And the reason for that is that the affordability rebate for sidewalks is aligned with our affordability program for solid waste. And so we don't want to do a one-off rules and regs just for sidewalks. We want to have a comprehensive DOTI-wide utility affordability program. And so that rule and reg is being worked on in parallel as well. So what I'm going to speak to today is currently under review by the CAO. So our intention is to provide a status update of where we are and to preview some of what we're including. But please know as we receive that feedback, both from CAO and you all, there may be some small changes to what we're showing here today.
Can I ask, again, this is not my area of expertise. I know in other government work that I'm involved in, you only have a right to appeal if you think that there is a problem with like the way they made the decision, but not just because you like if it's a rule or a law, like there's no appeal, you just have to do it. I take it that's the same. So like the appeal would only be if not that I don't want to pay my $150, but like if the city says, well, you're on a corner, like you have to pay more, or you're in a group thing, so you have to pay something, and you say, no, I'm not in a group thing, I'm in a, or whatever. Like that's, so I would, this is pretty black and white, right? I mean, isn't it? Like
we have a couple situations where people can appeal. So one of those would be street classifications. So, hey, you all thought this was a street. I think it's actually an alley, and we'll work closely with the engineer to reclassify that. Another example could be, so our frontage, we are using GIS technology to calculate that frontage. Folks could get a survey and we could have a, plus or minus a few feet, a couple feet. And so again, if someone has a different method or they're getting something different, we would certainly work with them to address that difference in frontage.
But it's the same concept though, right? That like you don't get to appeal just because you don't like it. It's only if the citizen thinks, or the homeowner, property owner thinks that you guys did it wrong.
Correct. Yeah, that there is
And
an
then
issue.
does that go to an administrative law judge?
So, and I'll get to this in just a second on
Okay,
the slide, if that's okay. And then if that doesn't answer your question, then we can come back to it if that's all right. So I'll come back to each of those points in just a second. Just a quick overview of the timeline. So we're here with you all today. After we present this, we are continuing briefings with city council members as well as the Sidewalk Stakeholder Committee, and really getting feedback from everyone to make sure they're aware of what's included in these rules and regs. So as we receive that feedback and work with CAO, we will edit and make changes as necessary. We will finalize the rules and regs and then follow proceedings of public hearing. So we will advertise that, we will hold that public hearing, and then if all goes well, we will adopt the rules and regs. And then once those are adopted, operationalize those and make sure folks have resources to make sure any questions are answered around those. And that will hopefully be in fall of this year. So we're looking at, later this year in a couple months. Great. So frontage measurement.
So it's one public hearing.
Sorry, what was that?
It's one public hearing to address all of the issues. Okay.
It is for rules and regs. Yeah. So frontage measurements, again, just some clarifications on how we calculate frontage. So just making sure folks know, private roads do not count towards property frontage. Alleyways, they're classified as alleyways, don't count for that. The other example we're seeing is with affordable housing. You might have a land parcel that is separate from the improvement parcel that sits on top of that. We would not charge that frontage twice. And so clarification just on how frontage is calculated for parcels in the city. And so we're going to clarify all of that and then outline processes to address and any line work changes and how we would change our calculations. Next slide. One of the big things we've heard from folks are concerns over just HOAs knowing what their bill is and how to handle that bill. So clear messaging. The rules and regs are going to clarify frontage in situations where there is an HOA. For everyone's knowledge today, however the stormwater bill is structured is also how the sidewalk bill is structured. And so some HOAs, you may have each individual property owner within the HOA receiving their own stormwater bill. And some HOAs may cover the cost for all properties within their HOA and receive one stormwater bill overall. And so the sidewalk fee will mirror that structure, whatever that structure is. And so as HOAs have questions around what is that amount, or how do we prepare for that in our own HOA, budgeting, we do have the sidewalk fee lookup fee or sidewalk lookup fee online that folks can see what that total bill will be. But we also want to make sure people understand how it's calculated for HOAs in these situations and develop a specific FAQ document so that they understand how to prepare and that everyone within the HOA is knowing what to expect when that sidewalk bill comes. The next piece is the annual rate increase. So as authorized in the ordinance, there is an adjustment annually for inflation. And that adjustment is a blended rate of the previous year's consumer price index and the construction cost index. And so what we will do is we will use these two indexes and we will blend them appropriately for our operating and capital expenses to adjust the fee appropriately to make sure we can continue building sidewalks. And so for 2026, current projections estimate a 2.9% increase, and it's 2.9% for both of those indexes. And so the base access fee would increase to $154.40, And our impact fee for all frontage over 230 feet would increase to $360 a foot. And I'll add real quick, in the rules and regs too, we will talk about the timing of that and how we specifically calculate it. So looking at it in Q4, how we will post this on the website and communication regarding this rate increase to customers. Great. And then the last piece, so contestation appeals. And so again, within the ordinance, we point to our wastewater process. And so customers who wish to contest frontage can reach out to our DOTI wastewater billing team. Their email is right here. And so if there is a question about measurement, about line work, about street classification, any of that, our billing team will investigate with the appropriate city agencies. We work very closely with the assessor's office, with our city engineers, and we will communicate those findings back to the customer. If after working with the billing team, customers still wish to appeal, they'll be informed of the process to file a formal appeal through the hearing officer, mirroring the process for wastewater contestations. And then after that process, if need be, they can continue through legal proceedings. Does that answer your question, Julie? Great.
Okay.
Great. So I think that is all for rules and regs, and I will turn it back over to Geneva.
Thanks. Oh, we have a question from Joe.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I just wondered, with your inflation factor, being again in the construction industry, that you're going to want a lot of concrete, and there's always fighting for concrete with obviously structures. Denver has slowed down, I can tell you lately, but if there is some kind of boom in the apartment buildings or the condominium buildings, I just don't see that as realistic. How many cubic yards do you think of concrete we're going to need? And are there enough processing plants to actually provide that much concrete for Denver? Who's looking into that? I mean, it's an enormous 300 miles of concrete is nothing to sneeze at. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know how many cubic yards of concrete we will need today, but it will be a lot, and that will be, I think you're spot on. There are kind of these two, maybe three huge things that we have to contend with to deliver the program. And one is the cost of materials and the availability of those materials. The other is the availability of the resources to help us do this work, not only just to the person power to pour concrete and do all of that, but also to oversee it and make sure that it's being done in a way that is up to our standards. And then we also have kind of just the budgetary constraint, and certainly influx of funds, whether that's a federal loan or that's bond, or we look at other kinds of mechanisms, will help us with those two. But we are ultimately constrained by how much can we deliver on an annual basis, and is there enough concrete to do that work, because we're not going to flex it and do asphalt sidewalks, for instance. So great questions. I don't have a specific answer to you, except to say a lot of concrete is going to be needed, but I don't have specifics for you today.
Well, I just hope you can keep your enthusiasm throughout the project, because it's going to take a lot of enthusiasm to pull this thing off.
Yeah, I'm going on like 15 years in transportation, and I still find it really fun and challenging. So I hope to maintain my enthusiasm. All right. Well, the last slide I have for you is just a reminder that we are kicking off the sidewalk implementation plan this summer. We will be in touch with more information about that. Spot repair work, I need to update my slide, is going to start in July. And then we have that sidewalk fee lookup tool if any of you have specific questions. And then, as always, we're trying to keep our denvergov.org sidewalk webpage as up to date as we can. We're updating FAQs, and there's a lot of information there. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen, and happy to answer any other questions, but I also think I might be out of time. So thanks. Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge Katie was very humble. She was incredibly instrumental in the ordinance committee to coming up with the numbers and things like that. So Katie, thank you for your service to the city on that. We've got a couple of sidewalk program ordinance committee members here. I see Bruce is here, Jill is here. I'm sure there's others that I'm forgetting. So I just wanted to thank everybody for getting us to this point where we're excited to actually talk about when we're going to start building this stuff as opposed to how the ordinance is going to be structured. So my one question, how will this implementation build on Denver Moves pedestrians, which, you know, already has the priorities around the tiers of how we're going to prioritize building out the sidewalk network?
Yeah, it's a good question. I see us using a lot of the work that was done in that 2017 plan and confirming and updating the, in some ways, the 2017 plan was saying, hey, this is what we want to do, but there wasn't a funding mechanism. There weren't all these other things that we have today. And we also have our very specific guide from the ordinance language itself. So things like prioritization, I see us taking that and saying, does that prioritization still make sense? How does it need to be updated? How do we make that prioritization fit with the Denver we have today and the ordinance that we have? And so it's sort of a confirmation and update and making sure that we're using all that thought. One thing that is particularly good is that the firm that led the Denver Moves Heads and Trails in 2017 is the same firm that's doing the update now. So they are deeply intimate with that work and know it really, really well. And so there's a lot of brain power there that's going to get carried forward.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, great. I'll be in touch and really looking forward to working with you all as we get the sidewalk implementation plan together. So thank you.
Thank you, Geneva. This is really exciting. Thank you, Katie. This is a massive undertaking, and as they say, you can't build Rome overnight, but even just seeing these little incremental changes, Sheridan Boulevard, it's so sad to see everybody walking in the dirt along that. So to see that you guys are focusing on a equity community for starters and a place that desperately needs sidewalks. Thank you guys for getting things rolling with that right off the bat. All right, great. Moving on to our next topic on the agenda, we are going to be talking about the Vibrant Denver Bond projects. Madam Budget Chair, June is here. June, do you need screen sharing access? Would you like to go over your map at all to kind of lay the framework on what the tier 1, tier 2 projects are for everyone? Nanita, would it be possible to give June or Nick, would it be possible to give June screen sharing access and me as well? Because I'm probably going to share the letter here in a minute. And while we're working on that, just to set the stage, our objective today is to go through the list of Vibrant Denver Bond projects. If the group isn't amenable, we wanted to do a quick straw poll of which 15 projects on this list of 30 or 40 you all would like to prioritize most. And we've got a form letter ready to go. You should have gotten an email about it last night from me. And we're just going to say like, hey, here are our top projects. We'll forward along to the executive committee. At the end of the day, the executive committee is going to decide what the executive committee is going to decide. But if there's to the extent where we can give some input on it to maybe sway one project versus the other, I think that would be great. So June, please take it away and set the stage with the current list of projects that we have here.
For sure. So I can't screen share right now, but if everyone, all the DOTI advisory board members check your emails, you should have received the email from Alan, and I sent a subsequent email. In there are 3 documents that I think are going to be very useful for us to sort of have an eye on. It is, number 1, the most comprehensive source of information that's publicly available for the transportation bond projects is that map I shared out in that email. So if you click on the link that was provided, you can see, I'm seeing some more people popping onto the map. So just to quickly talk you through what we're seeing on this.
Is there any way to get screen sharing access for June so our attendees would be able to see this as well?
Anita, are you able to do that? I do not have the access to give access. Hopefully Anita It's not taking.
I might be able to share, June, so let me try here if you
Or
can.
me.
Or Nick, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that works. Nick, you've got that link, right?
Yeah, was that an
I think
email?
I've got it
Sorry.
here too, June.
If,
Great.
if you've got it handy, Alan.
Yeah, I'll pull that up
Ready.
real quick here, Nick, if that's okay with you.
Sir.
Great, thank you. And I'm pretty sure it's giving me access to share, so I'm going to share that window right now.
Great.
And June, then you can talk me through.
Great.
Is everyone able to see the map?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, June. June, take it away.
So this is a map that I compiled using a few documents. Massive thank you to Jill for handing off all the information from the connectivity subcommittee to me. I used those documents, which basically had project summaries, budgets of every single proposed project, plus the final rankings that that subcommittee handed off to the executive committee to create this map. So what you're looking at is every single project that was evaluated or that was ranked by the connectivity subcommittee. For every project, for those of you who have the map, it's really, best for those who have the link. But for every project, you can click on it and you can see the budgets and the prioritization and the location of that project. So the connectivity subcommittee recommended 3 tiers. So tier 1 is high priority, tier 2 is medium, tier 3 is low priority. There's also 6 citywide projects which were recommended. Those are all those little dots in Civic Center Park, so you can click through those if you're curious. If you just want a regular list, in my email I sent out 2 spreadsheets. The first one with the Vibrant Denver Bond Connectivity Subcommittee rankings. That spreadsheet has a list including ratings pursuant to our previous recommendations from our bond letter. So the point here is to give people tools to actually evaluate what the bond projects look like. So in addition, Alan, if you go to that legend on the left, you see Nest Index neighborhoods. There's a little wink on the right side. Yep, click show and scroll out. And you can see outlined in purple the Nest Index neighborhoods. So, which is a little bit too far, which is a sort of has been my easy way to figure out, where are equity priority areas in the city. So that's what people can also use to evaluate. And I will give people 2 or 3 minutes to peruse and feel free to ask questions. I will also say some of the later documents, obviously, love the Department of Finance and DOTI staff who put these documents together, but some of the geographic extent descriptions on these projects was a little hard to come by. But I feel confident that everything listed here is as accurate as I could have gotten with publicly available information. So, yeah, and feel free to ask any questions if you've got any in regards to this map.
I'll also pull up the list here, if that's okay with you, June, in case folks want to kind of see more of a list of the projects too, in case folks aren't so much map folks, but more list folks. And while I'm doing that, I also forgot to mention to thank you for Nick on the sidewalks program. He was absolutely instrumental in being the sidewalks program director when we didn't have a sidewalks program director. So Nick, I'm sorry, I was remiss of mentioning that before. Great. So here is the list. It starts with connect.
Can I ask June a question first? This is Julie.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the map, there was a couple areas, one was in my district, so I was interested, that had like 2 red lines. Does that mean it's on both sides of the street? Is that what that was supposed to signify? Like there were 2 red lines kind of really close together?
Yeah, which project are you looking at?
I was looking at York Street.
Yeah, so that York Josephine, that project is a 2-way conversion.
Okay.
So my understanding of that project is that it'll convert both York and Josephine to two-way traffic between 40th and 47th. So
Right, okay.
Given that I said York and Josephine, I marked down York and Josephine between 40th and 47th, because that seemed to be to me to be the most sensible thing there.
Okay, I was just not sure, but thanks.
Yeah.
Julie, that project also included, I think, a neighborhood bikeway and pedestrian improvements as well. The feedback I had heard from community on that project was they wanted to have truck traffic be on York and have Josephine be a little bit more friendly for pedestrians and folks
would be
that
nice.
bike or roll.
Yeah. So the next documents, Alan, if you could pull up, it's going to be that Vibrant Denver Bond Connectivity Subcommittee rankings spreadsheet that I sent out. Because I'm just introducing our tools as we sort of begin discussing projects. So here on this screen, I pulled all the rankings from the connectivity subcommittee, pulled some additional information. So this is a little more robust in terms of the actual information it provides for some of these decision-making purposes. But if you go to the right of this spreadsheet, you can see what I did is that I put all of our bond recommendations from our original letter in here as categories. And I basically went through one by one with each project and did my best to evaluate, does it match our recommendations? And so on the very right of the screen there, you can see total score. So that score can go from 1 through 10. 1 meaning meets the fewest number of our recommendations and also was ranked low priority by the connectivity subcommittee. 10 means it's everything we wanted. It fulfills every single recommendation and it's a tier 1. So this is meant not to be determinative, right? But to be a hopefully somewhat more objective way of evaluating these projects. And I'm going to put on a filter view so we can rank these more directly. And that maybe can be the starting point. Yeah. And by 5:30, I'd love to start discussion about which project we want to recommend. So feel free to ask any questions about these tools in the meantime.
Well, if I can jump in, June, I was reading on the 14th, 13th, 14th section that there were cuts to the project between Colorado and Yosemite to save money, which got rid of bike lanes, got rid of sidewalks. I forget what else it got rid of. And basically then it's just timing and like some traffic calming. That's sort of what you're when you click on what the definition says later, or whatever you want to call it, the explanation?
Yeah, that was the project summary taken directly from staff. I don't know, Nick, if you're still on and if you had a hand in sort of any of this, but that the description that I found to be a little bit confusing because it mentioned removal of concrete bike lane or concrete curb protected bike lanes from scope because they wouldn't fit, east of Colorado, but the project scope obviously includes Broadway to Colorado as well, which width isn't an issue there. So would you happen to know if that scope question for the removal of the concrete curb protected bike lanes also includes Broadway to Colorado for that project?
June, I don't. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm failing you today.
It's all right. There's like over 60 projects here. So, but I definitely found that to be interesting at the very least. Yeah, it might also be worthwhile if we're going to recommend the 13th, 14th project to just say that we advocate for those concrete curb protected bike lanes between Broadway and Colorado, just, ensuring that east of there, it may not be possible due to width, but west of there, it's also called for in Denver moves that those bike lanes be included. So And also you'll notice on 13th and 14th, there are two projects layered. One's a tier 1, one's a tier 3. The tier 3 is the original proposal for 13th and 14th, which overall would have cost $240 million from Broadway to city limits for those two roads. So they obviously cut that down significantly. So now that project cost is not going to be $240 million, but $82 million. So another thing I'll call your attention to on the spreadsheet is I marked down, there's a column called scalable that basically indicates, can the project be scaled to reduce cost or increase cost if we really want to expand something. So that's another consideration. Okay, we are also at 5:30. So I'm going to run through sort of what my scoring system spit out as the top 15 recommended projects. And if there are any on there that we want to switch around, we can have that discussion. So at the top, Federal Boulevard Multimodal Improvements has the highest score out of 9, out of a possible 10. The Citywide Traffic Calming Program is recommended. The West Alameda Multimodal Improvements is recommended. The North Segment Broadway Multimodal project is recommended. The Neighborhood Streets with Bikeways program, that's another citywide, is also recommended. With that one, it only lists a per mile cost. So something we should also recommend is how much do we recommend be spent on that program? And that'll determine how many miles of neighborhood bikeways we want built out with bond money. Next, the Citywide Pedestrian Crossing Program. Then the reduced scope of the West 38th Avenue Major Multimodal Project. The $82 million reduced scope 13th and 14th Avenue Safety Improvements Project. The 17th and 18th Transit Speed and Reliability Phase 2 project. Note that that is a phase 2 of an existing project. So I'd expect that one to be more likely to go through than others because we tend not to abandon projects midway through. Then the East First Avenue and Cherry Creek Trail reconstruction. Then the Evans Avenue Corridor reconstruction project. Then the implementation of the Sheridan Safety Study. Then the Westwood Villa Verde Trail, which is the lowest cost item in all those projects. I will note it's $8 million. Then the York Josephine two-way conversion, then the South Broadway multimodal, then the Citywide Traffic Signals Program, then the Transit Supportive Improvements Program. That one is also a per mile cost, so we have to also recommend what we recommend the city spend on that program. So that is everything that got a score of 6 or higher. That is 17 total projects. So are there any projects that people are seeing that we really, really want in those top recommendations? Any projects that we want to see scaled down? Yeah, what do people think? Alan?
Yeah, June, I was going to say, you know, we can certainly go through and have a discussion around it. We do also have the survey tool that I linked to last night, and I can link in the chat now. So a couple options. We can either go off of the list that you recommended already based on the criteria the board came up with previously, which I love. We can also go off of the survey too and just see what the top 15 are that the board members vote on, obviously taking into account your recommendations, which here today, which I thought were outstanding.
Take the survey.
All right, I'll throw in the survey here.
Okay, Gary.
If you all want to use it.
Yeah, thanks. I love these spreadsheets you can play around with because you can sort by column. And I sorted the total score by column. So the 9 is at the top, and then it goes 8, 7, 6 downward. And the total cost for the items 9 through 6 in the total score is $1,000,000,003 million, and that doesn't account for the neighborhood streets with bikeways, which it doesn't count that in the total. So that's a lot of money. What was the bond program target?
I'm expecting 300 to 400 million for transportation. So although Gary, I will note some of these projects is also why in the spreadsheet I included scalable as a column, because that'll tell us, you know, can we whittle some of these down to get to that $300, $400 million mark? And we might want to consider having other projects with a lower score that are also lower cost, right? Like my scores also just take into account, do they contribute to our goals? It's not like, is this the highest impact for dollar cost, right? So that's the scores here are meant to purely be advisory, right? It's not at all meant to be determinative.
Yeah, I have a little sidebar here to talk to you offline, possibly about measures of effectiveness and that sort of thing. I'd love to talk to you about that, but that's a long conversation. But
I
I'm
wanted to make the calculation simple. I didn't want to make it accurate necessarily. Simple just for clarity.
And what is the tranche represent? What is A, B, C, D? What is that?
Yeah, so there were 4 tranches of projects that the connectivity subcommittee evaluated. Listing those tranches was basically just an easy way for me to keep track of my projects as I was doing data entry on them. So that's not really, you don't need to consider that.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say the first tranche, if that meant money, was 1.7 billion. So
no, those were just the documents where they received the list of projects. It has no bearing on prioritization.
Yeah. Well, if all of these costs are correct, you add them all up, and that's 3.3 billion. So, I don't know how that's going to get pared back. So,
well, not all these are going to get built. And a lot of the projects that we recommend are going to get scaled back, just to meet cost.
Yeah. Right. That's crazy. That's fascinating. Okay. I'm done.
I had a question, June. I know that you love to do work because you're always doing great things for us. Being the visual person I am, can you take your map and then now put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on that map? I mean, I know you have it colored by red, blue, and green, but is there a way to do that? I mean, I guess I could do it myself, but
could you repeat your question real quick? I'm not sure I understand what you're
okay,
asking.
so you just listed in order the top 10, right? So if you could transfer the top 10, or is all the red that you're showing on the map top 10? Like if, and I calculate 13th and 14th are ranked 8, then could you put an 8 there? You see what I'm saying? So we could look at the map and see what kind of we're voting on and how that fits in the overall pattern. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't have, unfortunately, an easy way to do that on this web app map.
Okay.
So, but let's see. It's a good question. I unfortunately don't have an easy way to do that on the web app. I'll say I could just run down sort of by area of the city and what projects we're seeing, right? And what's being recommended. So in West Denver, like west of I-25, every single project in red is in that top 17. So Sheridan, West 38th Reduced Scope, Federal, and the Via Verde Trail, which you see down there in Westwood, are all recommended.
Okay.
In terms of in central Denver, so that North Broadway multimodal and 4 of those citywide projects in Civic Center are recommended. Those projects on 17th, 18th, 13th, and 14th are recommended.
Okay.
Going down to the East First Avenue by Denver Country Club, the Cherry Creek Trail there, that is recommended as one of the projects. Southeast Denver, that Evans Avenue project is recommended. North Denver, the York Josephine project is recommended. And I believe I hit on everything that is in our top there. Yeah. So, yep.
Yeah, that helps. Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
So the only area where in our top recommendations that it doesn't touch, that no project really touches it at all, is going to be far northeast. So that might be a consideration, is we may want to consider supporting the Montbello Freshlow Walking Loop project to ensure that transportation dollars are going out everywhere. Yeah, if you're not taking the survey already, take the survey.
Can I go? Number one, I've already filled out my surveys. Do I have to do it again? Oh, okay, and then secondly, I would be remiss because I'm in District 2 that there are no projects that are listed specifically for District 2. None. Zero.
So, Gary, what I'll call your attention to is that this is where the citywide projects can come in, and also actually two
Sure.
caveats on this. So this is only the transportation projects. So there are 4 other categories in this bond, and I'm not familiar with the D2 improvements, but I can link you that that document was also in Ellen's email. So
Yeah.
council
I
just
do know there's an auditorium improvement in there for that college on Federal Boulevard, the old college.
Yeah, and I'd also say that the citywide projects for those areas which don't otherwise have a listed, big project, the citywide projects are where, we might see neighborhood improvements that we can lobby for D2. But, it's just not going to be like, they're not going to mark, there's only one project where it's like a tiny neighborhood improvement that's marked on the map, which is that RRFB at Dayton and Emporia, which is barely even visible from like the zoomed out view. So I'd say look at the citywide projects, see if any of those can fit in D2. And otherwise, see if any of the other citywide projects in the project tiering that was released. I am seeing some Harvey Park lighting project, a DPD4 expansion in D2, a few other citywide projects. So.
So far, we've gotten 4 responses for folks taking the survey. While folks are finishing up the survey, June, do you mind if we pull up the letter that we will plug in this data into?
Sure thing.
And so again, you all were emailed this last night, but the letter that we have going to the executive committee for the bond highlights the bullet points that June has so eloquently mentioned that we had in our original letter. Aileen had the great idea to add them in here. And then pretty much we'll cut and paste the list of the top projects that this group votes on once that is complete. But you can see here pretty much, hey, it says we, the DOTI Advisory Board, would like to reach out to you, submit our community input for your project list for the Vibrant Denver Go Bond Initiative. The DOTI Advisory Board was sent a letter in April on this topic, and as a quick recap, our key priorities were Vision Zero, safe routes to schools, speed red light cameras, limited funding for deferred maintenance, prioritizing projects benefiting underserved communities that lack infrastructure, basic safety, funding to complete key bike corridor network streets as outlined in Denver Moves Bikes, and funding to improve transit stops. So it's a pretty simple letter that we can just do a cut and paste in. The thought here was that we would vote on it today because most of the work of that executive committee is going to be done and completed before we meet again, which is kind of why we're doing the hurry up offense here. Joe?
Yeah, well, I guess, I don't know if we talked about the direct, very limited funding for deferred maintenance projects. I don't know if there's something specific in mind, but I think part of this committee has to kind of maintain what we have, and maybe is a little bit too strong in that, that we want to not overspend on that, but I don't think we want to totally disregard the maintenance that has to happen. I don't know how everybody feels about that. Yeah.
I can speak to that, Joe. So the rationale behind including that was basically that deferred maintenance, we should fix our transportation funding in general such that instead of deferring maintenance, we get it fixed when it needs to get fixed. And also so that we don't do debt spending on maintenance projects, right? Like bonds, philosophically should be for new projects, which change the way that people get around our city and not just maintaining the status quo. So in particular for this, I'll direct your attention to 2 projects in particular that I think fall into this category. pretty clearly. One is the Mississippi Avenue over the South Platte River Bridge Replacement Project, and also the Lincoln Street and 6th Avenue over Cherry Creek Bridge replacements. So those are all very necessary bridges, right, for our city. But those in and of themselves, they're not scalable projects. You've got to replace it all at once, right? So basically, if we spend bond money on that, that's about $90 million just out the gate, which goes towards, bridges that we should replace using not bond money. So that was the sort of logic. Is I fully expect them to spend bond money on deferred maintenance. Like, that is, without a doubt in my mind, they're going to do it. But it's more so calling out, don't take out a credit card to replace your transmission, right? Sort of deal.
Well, is it better limited bond funds, or just not just say general? I just don't want to be on the record to say we want the rest of Denver to go to hell. So we want bond funding limited for maintenance projects. Yeah.
Bond funding should be limited for maintenance projects. General funding and other sources which don't implicate debt financing, those should be the ones for maintenance, because it's about maintaining the status quo. Meanwhile, for debt financing, it's, to improve our city in other more substantial ways besides just maintenance.
Right. No, I think I can agree with that. I'm just not sure that I understood it right the first time. So, okay. I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
Andy?
Just I think the letter is great. I don't have any comments on that. I don't know if we want a motion to approve the letter once we decide on the projects, which will be the much harder process than approving the letter, I think.
So do we have the survey results yet, Alan? Because we're about at 5:50, and I'd love to sort of be able to wrap this up by end of meeting.
We do. Has everyone anyone not had a chance to vote yet? Great. So here is the voting we've got so far. So we've got, if we look at anything that's 4 or more votes, that leaves us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We are 1 short of being perfectly having our list, or we could just choose to do the top 14 projects instead of 15. 15 was just an arbitrary number we picked. And call it the top list of projects for suggestion.
Alan, I don't suppose you can embiggen the names of the projects. It's a lot of them, they're all just connectivity to me. I can't quite tell which ones are the high scoring.
Yeah, so we've got 13th and 14th safety improvements, 8th Avenue partial viaduct replacement, East First Avenue and Cherry Creek Trail from South Downing Street to University, Evans Corridor reconstruction, Federal Boulevard multimodal improvements, Connectivity Mississippi over the South Platte Bridge replacement, Connectivity neighborhood streets with bikeways citywide, Connectivity pedestrian crossing program citywide, Connectivity Sheridan Corridor safety study implementation, Connectivity, sorry, I'll skip that part. Traffic calming program citywide, West Alameda multimodal improvements, Westwood Via Verde Trail, York and Josephine two-way conversion, and Montbello Freshlow walking loop. In essence of time, since there are only a few minutes left, we'll be comfortable just going with the top 14, since odds are that the executive committee will, again, choose what they'll choose on this matter anyways, and this is just kind of general guidance for them.
Yeah, could I also throw in a quick pitch to folks, which is the citywide bike corral and build out program. That one only costs $2 million. So if we want to round out with 15, that is, I'm pretty sure, the lowest cost program here. And that will, or besides the RRFB, but that will directly support also the scooter legislation that was just released and hopefully keep sidewalks clear, especially in downtown and high shared micromobility areas. So I'll just make a pitch. If we're okay with adding a 15th, that one is very low cost. And I think is very cost effective. I don't know if folks are okay with that, but I figured I'd throw it out there.
There was a second for that motion?
Jamie, second.
Anybody object to that motion? Seeing no objections, I think that carries. So just to confirm, June, we will add adding the bike parking to that list of 14.
Yeah, and do you have a way of sharing those survey results with me directly so I can just pull all
Absolutely, yeah.
projects?
I will put this into a Google Sheet. And oh, that's a horrible visualization of what this looks like. So I will see if I'll copy this chart here and if you all are able to access this. No, that's trying to copy the visual image of the chart. Again, my apologies, June. Would the group be comfortable if we go through in June and I just after the fact put in that list that was put forward for the group out loud and add those to the letter and just say we're not going to change the letter, we're just going to copy and paste those list of projects in and perhaps voting on the letter as written, knowing that we will add the projects that have been recorded here today.
I guess.
So moved.
Oh, sorry. One
Go ahead, Andy.
question though, Alan. So how many total responses did we get versus active members of the board?
10. We got 10 total responses. That is a quorum. Everybody did have an opportunity to do it over the last 20 or so hours here. So
yeah, I guess I was just thinking if there were board members because they came in last night, 24 hours, less than 24 hours, not a ton of time to do it. If there are board members who weren't able to make this, is it the sort of thing that and it's really hard to approve the list. I'm just thinking out loud, but I don't know if it's worth it giving them another 24 hours to fill it out and then just still go with whatever the top 15 are. Or if we just want to approve, I think I could be convinced either way on that, but 24 hours to look at that isn't a ton of time for folks.
yeah, and agree. And that's my fault for not getting it out to everyone sooner. And again, my apologies, but I'll defer to the group on how you all would like to proceed.
I'm okay with that. I will say the only deadline that I'm sort of looking at is the next executive committee meeting is on June 13th, so a few days from now. I'm hoping to be able to get up early enough and go present our recommendations to them in person or virtually. So, as long as sort of we're done with this letter by the 13th and we have the ability to do votes by email and give people more time to do the survey, I'm okay with that.
Does anyone have any opinions on this matter? The only challenge I could foresee from a technical perspective, Andy, is that we could see a few tiebreakers here. And I think that would involve the board having to have a discussion. So that would be the only, from a procedural perspective, I'm fine either way. I think from making sure that the wishes of the board are seen, I don't think we have the ability after today to under our bylaws to make a decision if there is a tiebreaker. So that would be the drawback, that we just have to say, hey, maybe it's the top 12 projects at that point in time.
Well, you did say, we have quorum for the votes, right? So
we do.
I think we'd also be okay just moving forward, and it's a reminder that everyone should try and make these meetings.
Yep. Yes, that's right. As they say, 90% of life is showing up. And we'll also try in the future when we have things like this to try to get it out sooner. I think you have a good point, to give folks more time to digest and be able to participate in it as well. So yeah.
So despite being the person who brought up that complication, I'd suggest let's just move forward and approve these 15 then. So
okay. So we have a motion. Is that motion just to approve these 15 or to approve the letter with these 15 as well?
And the letter. Yeah,
okay.
The 15 and the letter.
Okay, great. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Great. Are there any objections to approving the letter as written with these 15?
I still like taking out varying. I will not hold the group up. Yeah.
Great. June, would you be okay removing vary?
Removing, let's see.
Instead of saying directing
I'm
very
okay with that.
limited funding to directing limited funding?
I'm
Great.
okay with that.
I'm going to make that update. Do we have any objections to that change? Hearing none. Okay. And then just to go back as written, new letter with that one edit to in all 15, just to confirm, do we have any objections to the letter as written with the 15 with the very removed? Hearing none. Okay. I think that passes. Great. That leaves us 3 minutes left. June, amazing job on the homework for the budget. Thank you so, so much for all your incredibly hard work in educating the board in both a visual and spreadsheet style and the analytical methodology of thinking that you're so good at it and sharing with the rest of us. So thank you.
Yeah, you made
It took a
very
while, but it was a
easy
good
for us.
time.
You made it easy for us, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
I will tell you that map, to my knowledge, is the single most comprehensive source of information publicly available regarding our transportation bond program. So it is better than anything. Sorry to the city. I love y'all. It is better than anything I've seen the city release and better than anyone else has produced that I know of. So very happy with it.
Thank you, June, again.
And also, yeah, feel free for all advisory board members, feel free to spread that map to people you know who are interested. That is meant to be a public resource for folks. And it's meant to be something that people can consult as we move forward in this bond process. And I do plan on keeping it updated sort of once we get the proposed bond packages coming out.
Thank you again, June. Real quick with our 1 minute left. Gary, Jamie, any updates from the policy committee or announcements for your group?
I don't have any at this time. Gary?
Gary said in the chat that he left.
Gary has left the building. So no
Yep.
worries there. Any, with the 1 minute left, any other odds and ends from the group that any board members would like to bring up? For future agenda items, we've added the conversation about downtown bike lanes to the list based on comments today. We also have Vision Zero on the list. We've been trying to get that, but we have a few scheduling conflicts. And last but certainly not least, we'll be hopefully talking about Xcel Energy is going to be renewing their public, I can't remember the terminology for it, but you'll hear about it in the future months as the department has asked for the board for feedback on that. If you aren't familiar, Xcel Energy does all of our lighting for our city in addition to power for most folks in Denver as well. So more to come on that, but know that that's coming as well. Thank you all for your time today. It's great seeing you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well-run meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Well run. Sorry I was late. I think I got most of my notes and I'll send them sooner this time. Have a good one.
Thanks, Paul. Cheers.